Today I wanted to give an update on my home lab. So as you know, I've been running my own cluster. It was a single node cluster and I was managing all my deployments through ArgoCD. Recently, I actually decided to put myself through the pain of going through a migration from ArgoCD to FluxCD. If you don't know what Argo is, and by Argo I'm specifically talking about ArgoCD, it's this declarative tool to sort of perform and implement GitOps. So I'm going to declare what my applications are, how it works, and then it's going to manage the deployment onto Kubernetes, and it's going to be declarative. So there shouldn't be any sort of manual intervention. Argo will handle all of it. And I really enjoyed Argo. I've been using it for the past, 5 years, I think. I've used it in my personal cluster and I've used it in work. And then recently, actually, I was tasked with the challenge of moving a well-established Argo instance to Flux. Now, if you don't know what Flux is, it is a very similar tool, but this one is more like a engineer dev focused. There's no UI when it comes to Flux. Everything is done through the CLI, and it's a very complex and very powerful tool that I found that the learning curve was very steep, but not unachievable. It again is a declarative tool. You push your code, it then takes your code, it ensures that it is declaratively deployed to your cluster and managed through a handful of controllers. They have like a Helm controller, there's like a Git repository controller, and a couple of other controllers as well. Very cool tool, right? Very cool. So I thought I would start off with showing you kind of like how I had it configured when it was my Argo instance, and then how it's configured now with my Flux instance. So I've got the two repos here. The local K8 is my old repo, home cluster is my new one, and even that's had a couple of iterations since I first started building it. And you can see here I have this sort of directory structure where I really tried, and I've done this so many times now. I start off with the intent of it being a clean directory structure that's going to, grow and can be used. And then I end up just, clearly doing some code late at night, and then I end up creating a directory, and then the whole thing's sort of like a mess. And that seems to be a repeating pattern, but it's fairly straightforward. So what have we got here? So this, like here, I've got an application, which is an Argo, this is an Argo spec, right? So this is something that Argo is going to see, it's going to manage, and then it's going to deploy it from a source, like its local repo, so the one that I'm working in. And then also it's going to give it a destination, which is its local cluster. Very straightforward. You don't see what's going on, right? You put in your source, you put in your definition, and then you will just see it deployed. You would then see it on the UI, you would see that it's all nice and healthy. You could use the CLI tool, but again, why would you when you've got the UI? It's just there and it's very straightforward. Same as things like this. So this is also going to be pointing to my own local path, my local repo, and it's going to deploy it. So we can actually have a look at this, and you can see here. So this first one, right, app A, it is using this path that points to my deployment and my service. Very straightforward. These are just Kubernetes manifests, and yeah, there's a service for that. This was like for me testing. This was when I was testing Vault integration, actually. What was it? No, Bitwarden Secrets Manager doing, with external secrets. Very cool setup. Something, if you ever wanted to play with external secrets, the Bitwarden Secret Manager is actually a brilliant tool, and it's free. Again, here, this is like another application. You get the gist. I have kind of like this services up here, which points to what's deployed. And then I have sort of like the definitions of what's actually in there. Very simple, not overly complex whatsoever. I think that's pretty much it. I've got some Helm stuff in there as well. It doesn't actually look I did a lot with this. This looks very default, which is fine. I'm not worried about that. Then if we jump over to like my new cluster, it's a very different sort of story. Now, my first iteration, I think I put it all in apps. And I started and I was like, yeah, this is okay. But then I was like, no, we need to start again. Now, bootstrapping bootstrapping Flux is very straightforward. Okay, right, so the getting started, we kind of go in here, you can install the CLI, great, easy, you know, the support for Windows, support for Mac, support for Linux, easy peasy. You get a token. Once you've got your token, you can run some pre-checks. It'll tell you about the version of your Kubernetes, the version of your Flux, and then also, that's it, you have this install command. You provide the token, that you just created, you provide the repo, the branch, and the path. So my current path is like Flux clusters, and then I name my cluster dev, and it's a personal one. And it will kind of run through this bootstrap. And then that's it, you're ready to go. The moment you start then adding information to the repo in the correct file paths, it will start deploying it. I say that as if it was a really, really simple thing. Once it came to the file path structure and everything else, that's when I started to have some challenges. And I mean that in the sense of Flux was brand new to me. I hadn't deployed it, I hadn't worked with it, I hadn't seen it in production. So this was brand new. And wow, it was a learning curve. So I looked at all this, I was like, yeah, this is fine. We've got some information here about creating a customization. Now, you might see this and think, yeah, customization, Kubernetes customization, easy. No, think of this as more like, if this is the right one, of course, which I think it is. Yeah, think of this as more of a Fluxtomization. It's another type of customization, but Flux's own one. So that was challenge number one. Yeah, you can see it here in the API definition. This is the FluxCD customization. You can also use the other customization to iterate over that customization. And already you can hear me when I'm explaining it. You can hear where the challenges start to come in. Just like, yeah, explaining it is a whole other thing. The best way to learn Flux is by actually doing it hands-on. So I digress. I'm going to jump back in. Here we are. So let's close off that. Let's start looking here. So here's the clusters that I said about. You know, clusters dev, and this is what the bootstrap has built. Okay, right. So we've got kind of like some components, the sync, and a customization file. Note, like I said, this is a customization, not a Fluxtomization. Different thing altogether. Got the Git toolkit there, and that's kind of it. So that's not too bad. Don't have to worry about that. Inside the Flux system, I actually have this file here. So this is kind of like my root-based instructions that says, I want you to deploy every 10 minutes whatever is in this folder. So whatever is in the dev folder, I want you to deploy it. Simple as, right? And then what actually happens, let me see if I can actually just bump up the display here. What's the easiest way of doing this? You can go boom, boom. There we go. That might be a little bit better. Yeah, so iterate over dev. Cool, with this customization file. So if we went into the dev, so we can ignore that now. We can see here I've got a bunch of subdirectories. Now how I have styled this is that each subdirectory is technically a namespace. So I have a monitoring namespace, GitOps, Istio, Flux, and apps. So if we have a look at apps, in here I have another customization file, which is another literal, like a Kubernetes customized, right? And again, you can tell this because of the API definition up top. And this is to iterate over the folders above it. Okay, so fairly straightforward. So let's say K agent. Oh, actually that one's quite bad. Yeah, cool. Let's look at monitoring, right? So we're going to have a look at monitoring and we'll look at them in both. So I have a customization. This is a Fluxtomization here, and I'm basically telling it to go and deploy whatever is in this Grafana base directory. Fairly straightforward, right? But the reason why I have it mirrored like this is that if I was so inclined, I could go in here and I could do a post build substitute, right? And it would be something like cluster name, and it would be, yeah, dev. Let's go with dev, okay? Right, helps if you can spell. Cluster name, dev. So then if I was so inclined, I could actually just copy this whole dev directory, create a new one for prod, So, production. And just update this to prod, and it will deploy everything exactly the same. It will be a mirror image on a brand new cluster for a production. And that's how I could do it. And that's great, because then when it comes to defining variables or anything like Helm values, I can define them in base, and then they will be replicated and deployed across both dev and prod, and they will be a perfect mirror image of themselves, with the subtle difference of maybe the naming convention, which is ideal when it comes to, if you're actually using dev for testing and you want to see how it's going to behave in prod. This is kind of like another way of doing it. And you can start to understand why the path and the logic behind Flux can initially be a very steep learning curve. These tools are not impossible to learn, and anything can be learned as long as it's practice. Your brain is a muscle, and as long as you practice it regularly, then you're going to get better at it. I regularly practice and exercise my brain by doing puzzles, logic games, and also using Brilliant, which is today's sponsor. Brilliant is a learning app designed to be uniquely effective. Each lesson is filled with hands-on problem solving that lets you play with the concepts, a method proven to be more than 6 times more effective than watching lecture videos. Brilliant helps you build understanding from the ground up, and has a perfect mix of engaging problems, competitive features, and daily encouragement that keeps you motivated and on track. Plus, all the content on Brilliant is crafted by an award-winning team of teachers, researchers, and professionals from Stanford, MIT, Caltech, Microsoft, Google, and more. Brilliant starts you with mastering the foundations, then helps you level up to increasingly challenging problems. I often find myself going back to the mini games when it comes to the problem solving with Brilliant. I try and do it in the morning or at lunchtime, and in that way it's just a little bit every day tends to build up, and really I do feel the better for it. They have a great collection of different tools that you can pick up, including programming, so it's fairly relevant for what I do on a day-to-day basis. To learn for free on Brilliant, go to brilliant.org/chrismatcham, scan the QR code on the screen, or click the link in the description. Brilliant's also giving viewers 20% off an annual premium subscription, which gets you unlimited daily access to everything on Brilliant. Once you crack the logic of Flux, it will start to just all come together nicely. One of the lovely features which I really like about Flux is the very clean depends on. Which is really, really helpful when you have things like, so I have external secrets, I run external secrets, and then with that, I can't deploy external secrets until I have Cert Manager deployed. Or rather, not necessarily Cert Manager, but I need a certain certificate to exist before my cluster secret store can be deployed, because it needs that to authenticate with Bitwarden. The moment you start having these race conditions, you really start to appreciate the depends on factor. And not only that, if I was to jump over to the CLI, which I can do now, there we go, we should be able to see that now. If I force a reconciliation, in fact I've got one there, right? It might not. It might actually show the depends on. No, it doesn't, because I haven't got anything running. Everything's already applied, so I'm not too worried about that. If I push to change, maybe we could see it. Yeah, let's do that. Let's just push a silly change, shall we? Let's go with something, I don't know. Actually, can I do that? I mean, it might fail because it's not being consumed. I'm not sure if there's a dependency like that. But what I can do, actually, is if I went into Grafana and we put, let's demonstrate the post substitute build. Let's do that. This is probably going to break something, but oh well, who minds really? Let's just call it, we'll call it this, we'll call it that, and we'll call it cluster name. So now my Helm repo is going to be called Grafana dev. That's what we're saying. All I actually want to show you is that you'll see the depends on. So let's do that. So let's actually get to the file path, which, oh my God, on Windows would be what, this? Yep, there you go. Look at that. Gosh, smashing it out of the park. Yes, I'm back on Windows. Yes, it wasn't by choice. No, I'm not happy about it. But anyway, okay, right, what we got? So 2 changes. Yeah, that's the changes that we get. And then we can just put sort of like a nice, easy commit message. I know it's my home lab. I know I don't have to do it, but I like to do it. It's good for if you're using your repo for like demonstration purposes. It's really not for demonstration purposes, but if you're using it to try and like get an interview or get a job, and you can show that you can do proper DevOps with atomic commits, it just helps, And in this current state of affairs, we want every little bit, right? We want every little bit that helps. What we got? What's reconciling? So reconciling means, by the way, that it's actually trying to apply the changes of what's gone on. So that's just force. This isn't forcing it. This is just prompting it, because I think I've got it set to refresh every 10 minutes. So let's have a look and see what that looks like now. There we go. Cool. Now, do you remember what I said about dependencies? Right here. Is it ready? No. Now, that means that technically it's actually already deployed, but the latest commit, the latest revision is not deployed, because the dependency for this one's dependency is external secrets operator is not ready. Cool, that's fine. We're okay with that. So you could look at external secrets operator, and where it's in the GitOps namespace. So you can have a look at that, and there it is here. Boom. External secrets operator is not ready because it has a dependency on cert manager. That's what I was saying about for my config store. So we can go have a look at that. Here's cert manager. It's not ready because it has another dependency. You see how this works? And there you go. The operator is the only one that's actually applied. So now you would start to see actually things start falling into place. There you go. There's a lot more applied now. A couple more dependencies, external secrets operator, because of secret store. So this is fine, but you can see what I mean. And this is kind of like one of the great things about Flux. It does give you some really cool tools. Yes, it's a learning curve, but it's worth it. And you can see here I've got some alerts set up, which I can go into in another time. And my provider is set up to Grafana. Let's see if we can see that change. Do you remember what it was on? It was on a Helm. There it is. Boom. Boom. Don't you just love it when demos work, live demos work? Grafana dev, that was originally Grafana, it works. So if I was so inclined and I had another cluster, or even the same cluster and controlled it by namespaces, I could control it like this using post-build substitutes. Another quick refresh here, and you can see that nearly everything is applied healthy. Yeah, I am having some issues with Loki. That's something that's come up. Loki is actually deployed perfectly fine. I'm just having some issues in terms of my health checks, which is something I need to fix. I might need to define with like a custom health check or something like that. But that's something that I need to do. But yeah, so we've kind of looked at the code, which is great. We've looked at the code, we've understood some of the post-build and why I like it and the way I've built it. I'm not going to probably go any further into it at this point. I would like to show you that I have these dashboards, right? So I have also built, wow, look at that. That's a lot of information. So this is, I didn't build this. This is like a Kubernetes pre-built dashboard for Grafana that I have just applied. One of the things I love about open source is that this exists. I can Google Grafana dashboard for Kubernetes cluster, and this is what comes up, and I can just import it, and it's working, and I can see metrics, and some of it's actually relevant, some of it's useful. I can see, I didn't realize I had 57 workloads. I didn't realize I had nearly 80 pods running. I did know I had 3 nodes. That I did know. The other fun fact is, you can see here, I've got 3 machines, which are kind of the same. One's Intel, 2 Horizon, or one's AMD. But this one's on 3 cores, and that's because on that machine, I actually have a core separated, isolated, just for my Jellyfin media server, because that's running in Docker outside of my Kubernetes cluster. So yeah, there you go, fun fact. But what I actually want to show you was my cluster my Flux controller. So this is another dashboard. This dashboard is actually provided by Flux, which is fantastic. And this just gives you information about the controllers and kind of what's going on and how it's working. So these spikes, these ones that go up here, this is the reconciliation. This is the one we've just done, right? So this is where the duration of them going on. This was probably when, well, yeah, they were the last ones to finish. So all that depends on was building this time. And you can see here that there was eight successful OCI repos. I've got 2 Git repos, so the OCI being like the newer Helm ones. It looks like I've got 4 now. So then, oh yeah, there would have been some crossover where I changed the name as well, which is interesting. And then here you can see some Helm charts and also Helm releases. But everything's like, I've even got like a heartbeat, you know, here. Like this is cool, right? It's telling me it's okay. If there was a problem with this, I could set this up to then get alerts. And I just love it. I'm impressed so far. Flux is winning me over. I'm probably going to stick with it. And yeah, you should definitely check it out, give it a go, and reach out if you've got any questions about Flux. I hope you found this video interesting. I'm kind of going for more of a vlog style, just kind of letting you know what I've been doing this week. In my next video, I'm probably going to look at how I integrated the incident response manager, which is Grafana's like on-call, and how I integrated it with my cluster. Now, you might be confused about that because for those that don't know, the IRM, Incident Response Manager, is actually part of Grafana Cloud, and I'm not running Grafana Cloud, I'm running it locally. So how do you set it up? Well, I will show you in the next video. So thanks for sticking around, and I'll see you in the next one.